All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dive into the absolutely wild story of how a company right at the center of the internet boom managed to build a billion-dollar empire basically out of thin air, and of course, how it all came crashing down. This is the story of Global Crossing.
So picture this. It's the start of 2002, and a company that was supposed to be the very backbone of the internet age suddenly just collapses. Why? It was crushed under a mountain of debt, a truly staggering $12.4 billion. I mean, how does a company that's supposed to be at the very heart of the internet revolution just evaporate? Well, the story of its fall is a crazy tale of ambition, illusion, and just outright deception. So let's start with the moment it all fell apart.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The date is January 28, 2002, and Global Crossing officially files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. This news sent absolute shockwaves through Wall Street, because this wasn't just some random company. This was supposed to be a titan of the new economy.
You know, if you just looked at the books, this company looked like an absolute powerhouse. But here's the thing. This wasn't just a simple case of a business failing. Oh no. This was a carefully constructed mirage designed to hide the fact that the entire operation was pretty much hollow. So to really get how this all went so spectacularly wrong, we got to jump in the time machine and head back to 1997, right into the thick of the dot-com frenzy.
The idea itself, it actually felt revolutionary. You've got the founder, Gary Winnick, and he sees the internet just exploding. He realized it needed plumbing, a massive global network of undersea fiber-optic cables. I mean, in the middle of the dot-com gold rush, it looked like a total slam dunk, right?
And investors, they bought into that dream big time. But, and this is a huge but, there was a massive problem hiding right under the surface. The company was chronically, deeply unprofitable. Building that network was unbelievably expensive, and they were just burning through cash. We're talking about $600 million in interest payments alone every single year.
So, you've got these huge losses piling up, and Wall Street is breathing down your neck, demanding growth, growth, growth. What do? Well, the execs came up with a scheme that was, both ingenious and completely fraudulent.
The whole scheme was built around this thing called a capacity swap. Sounds kind of boring and technical, right? But how on earth do you use something like that to just invent billions of dollars out of thin air?
Now, this slide is brilliant. It breaks it down perfectly. Just imagine two pizza shops, okay? Pizzeria A sells a pizza to Pizzeria B for 20 bucks. Then, at the exact same time, Pizzeria B sells one right back for the same price. See what happened? No actual money changed hands. But on their books, boom, 20 bucks in fresh revenue for both of them.
And that is exactly what Global Crossing was doing. They would swap the rights to use their empty, dark fiber-optic cables with their rivals, and then, here's the trick, they'd book their side of the deal as immediate cash revenue. It was an accounting sleight of hand that made them look incredibly successful, even though no new money was actually coming in. And wow, this chart really drives home just how huge this deception was. By the year 2000, 60%, a full 60% of the company's reported sales wasn't real money from actual customers. It was all just paper revenue from these completely hollow deals.
Right, so you can't build a house of cards that big and expect it to stand forever. Sooner or later, something's got to give. So what was the final straw that brought the whole thing crashing down?
I mean, look at this timeline. The whole thing, from start to finish, was just incredibly fast. We're talking just 5 years from this ambitious, world-changing idea to a spectacular bankruptcy. And you can see that key moment in 2001 when a former employee turned whistleblower and alerted the SEC. That really started the final countdown.
And here it is, the final nail in the coffin. The dot-com bubble bursts. And when it did, the actual real demand for all that internet bandwidth just disappeared. All of a sudden, they had no partners left to play their swap game with, and there was simply nowhere left to hide all that massive, very real debt.
So the company is bankrupt, but the story doesn't end there. The fallout was just immense, and not just for the company itself, but for thousands and thousands of people. And it forced everyone to ask some really tough questions about corporate ethics, about Wall Street, and, about who's really held accountable when things go this wrong.
And this right here, this shows you the truly shocking human cost. On one side, you have the founder, Gary Winnick. He walks away a very rich man, having cashed out $735 million in stock before the ship went down. And on the other side,
Over 4,000 employees who lost everything. Their jobs, their retirement, their pensions, gone.
Okay, so after a disaster this big, you'd expect regulators to step in. And they did. They cracked down, and they cracked down hard. Executives were hit with fraud charges, there was a huge settlement for investors. But the biggest thing to come out of this, the real legacy, was the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. This was a landmark piece of legislation, a huge deal, designed specifically to stop this kind of corporate funny business from ever happening again.
So you might be thinking, okay, that's a wild story, but it happened 20 years ago. Why does it still matter? Well, because it's a timeless warning, really. It's a powerful reminder of what happens when the hype gets way ahead of reality and when creative accounting takes the place of actual real profits. Disaster is pretty much always the next stop.
And that really leaves us with this final, thought-provoking question, doesn't it? When you look around today at the massive booms in things like AI or green energy, do you see echoes of the dot-com era? Are we seeing the same patterns? Are people once again getting so caught up in the next big dream that they're willing to ignore huge debts and a basic lack of profitability?